What is up, everybody? Welcome to episode 99 of the Best Self Blueprint. For those of you tuning in for the first time, the mission of this podcast is simple. Through education, inspiration, and experiences, help you move the dial towards becoming the best version of yourself, whatever that means to you. So today's episode is with honored guest Brian Marckesano. He is a social and networking coach, helping men develop relationships and brotherhoods with elite men, find high quality partners, develop themselves into the man they want to be, and live the life of their dreams. This episode is chock full of information. If you are someone who wants to just be a better person, if you're someone who wants to learn how to develop and culminate high level relationships, whether that's with a significant other, with friends, this is the episode you're not going to want to miss. So without further ado, episode 99, let's get into it. All right, Brian Marckesano, welcome to the Best Self Blueprint. How you doing?
Good, man. Good to see you, Trevor. How you doing, bro?
Pretty good. So I want to start with obviously networking, your coaching, everything you're doing. With your social lifestyle blueprint, I was just telling you, I think it's so interesting how your perspective as an experienced coach in this space is that the number one step, the foundation that needs to be built if you want an elite social lifestyle actually comes from within. It's self-development. So
Right.
what led you to that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the rabbit hole that I went down in self-improvement it all begins in the mind. Like your inner world is what ends up reflecting in your outer world. So one of the keys that I talk about with clients that I work with, there's three keys. So I talk about mindset, social skills, and then strategy. So when it comes to networking and making friends and meeting people and improving your dating life, all these different topics that I cover in my program, where it really begins is with the mindset piece, because without the mindset piece, the social skills and the strategy really can't go anywhere. It's kind of almost like a Lamborghini without a gas pedal, because if you have fears and limiting beliefs, and if you have, doubt and you hesitate and you're insecure and all these different things, it'll get in the way. So for me, personally, the first thing that has to develop is not just knowledge and awareness of different skill sets, but then practice and implementation, so that this way there can be genuine confidence and muscle memory.
Yeah, so I'm a believer in, I think belief has two parts to it. There's the unconditional and the conditional. The unconditional is just whether it's you're spiritual or you're just very self-aware. It's the understanding that because you woke up this morning, you have the opportunity to go chase what you want. But then there's the conditional belief, which is stacking the evidence.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you do a really good job of teaching your people, hey, you got to start stacking some evidence, because obviously the evidence that's there is not sufficient. So how do you start that process? If someone comes up to you and they're like, look, man, I don't feel good about how I look. I don't feel good about my ability to socialize. Where do you start with someone like that?
Yeah. So, I mean, the first thing to understand with that, when we dive into the mindset stuff, is that you get what you expect. So it's all a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Like your beliefs are what lead to your actions. Your actions are what lead to the way people respond. The way people respond is what reinforces your beliefs. So you're either biased towards success or you're biased towards failure. So right away, we need to become aware of where your beliefs stand. And then we can start to use education to reconstruct some of these beliefs and like reframe the way that we think about other people, the way we think about ourselves, the way we think about, the way the world works. And so there's an educational piece of it there. And then it just becomes practical implementation. So baby steps in the beginning, right? Like at the end of the day, growth is going to require some level of discomfort. You can't get something for nothing. So there's steps that people can take, and a lot of the times it's the ones that are right in front of them. And so that's why coaching is so important, is the accountability piece. But then also people need to just be reminded more than they need to be taught. So when it comes to gathering new evidence or taking new actions and then gathering new evidence and developing positive reference experiences, you can begin to reinforce and start restructuring those beliefs, and then it becomes a positive feedback loop and an upward spiral, as opposed to like, the opposite, obviously, like the negative feedback loop and then a downward spiral.
All right, we're off to a good start. There's a lot of threads to pull in that. So the first thing that I absolutely agree with is it's very difficult to get yourself to the point where you realize it is a choice, but
Mm,
it's that quote, you're under no obligation to be the same person you were 5 minutes ago.
yeah,
It really is a choice. You can choose to set those limiting, insecure beliefs to the side and begin to reconstruct that new pathway towards who you want to be, the life you want to live. And I find that really valuable when people do start to wake up to the fact that just because you've lived your entire life in this container doesn't mean you can't get outside of it. You just have
right,
to choose and be willing to do the work. But the thing that I'm really curious about that I want to dig into more is because I come from the health and wellness space, but as a
yeah,
coach, I resonate so much with what you said. People more often need to be reminded than taught. A
yeah.
lot of this stuff is not, you don't need a PhD to, improve your social life or start lifting weights in the gym. What do you think it is? It just the busyness of life that gets people caught up in not realizing this stuff, or why do you think people need to be reminded of these things?
Yeah, that's a pretty good question. So I think like, the reason people probably need to be reminded is just because of, I mean, I don't know, neural pathways, right? Like just people have been the same way for so long that for them, the like, I guess eventually it comes down to a desire for change. I mean, you kind of have to go through or have a realization that you want something to shift or want something to change, and then from there, um it's all about having the self-startedness and taking the initiative to be able to like solve your problems and approach your problems as passions. Like if you don't have that, then you're just never going to get anywhere. Like that's kind of how it was for me. It was like, look, I have all these issues in my social life, my dating life. And for me, the first thing that I've thought to do is just go to the internet and go get onto YouTube and start reading books and try to like really tackle the problems in my life as projects and look at them as like passion projects, right? And just kind of like, get in and get the knowledge and then try to, yeah, I mean, just make those shifts. And a lot of it is just at the end of the day, if you read like books and you start getting into this stuff and you realize from like from Atomic Habits, I don't know if you've read the book Atomic Habits, but you really start to realize like your life is a function of your identity. And then your identity can begin to shift and it can begin to change. And man, I mean, it's not easy. Like it takes dedication. So, within the world of coaching, right? Like that's where finding somebody that has what you already want and then can lay out the blueprint and can lay out steps and has already been on this journey. They can accelerate the process, hold you accountable, give you community, and all these other things. So that's where I ended up, diving in. And I ended up signing up for programs, you paying for mentors, and then surrounding myself with like-minded people. Before you know it, I mean, if you really dive in and you get into this stuff, like what you can accomplish in a year, looking back, like I am nowhere near the same person I was 5 years ago. Like it's really crazy and how it compounds over the years. Like you can change a lot, like in 6 months. So I don't know if that answers the question, but
It does. Yeah, and I do want to get to your backstory as well, but I've already the train has left the station and now I'm so intrigued by all these philosophy and tactical approaches you have. But it is such an interesting duality because in one end of it, you need the self-propelling nature of being willing to do the work on your own.
Yeah.
But I'm in the exact same boat. I think people fall into this trap of either I don't think I'm good enough to start coaching yet, so I need to do some groundwork before I start coaching, or they see a little bit of success and then they think, oh, I don't need a coach. I think it takes a unique type of strength to be willing to admit that there's someone out there that can get me to the point I want to be way faster than I can. And if I'm just willing to surrender to their process, to the understanding that they know something I don't because they have something I don't,
Hmm.
I hope that part of this conversation wakes people up to the fact that no matter what you're trying to improve in your life, there is a coach out there that can help you,
Hmm.
and they can do it in a way that works best for you and your life and your personality. I don't know about you, but I tell people all the time, look, just because I'm a health and wellness coach doesn't mean I'm the best coach for you. If I am, let's rock and roll. If I'm not, I'll recommend someone else.
Yeah.
But I always want someone, even if I'm not a good fit, I still push them towards, hey, get the coaching. It's a catalyst. And on top of that, it shares the perspective of someone who's been in it way longer.
Yeah. And here's the thing for me too is I I feel like people's progress in life is a function of their level of ambition. I think there's a layer deeper though, where it's like your ambition is a function of what you believe is possible. So for me, I don't think that I would be as ambitious as I am had I not had people in my life earlier on that really like pushed me to get into this like whole world of self-development, so we can go like all the way back in time
Let's do it.
when when my mother pushed me when I was younger. So when I was 21, I believe I was 21 years old. Prior to that, as a teenager, I kind of like struggled a little bit. Like was a little bit like purposeless when it came to my future. Just kind of wanted to like run around with my friends and have fun, and just like was getting into trouble and all this different stuff. And she, pushed me because she saw what was happening in my life. She pushed me to go to a life coaching seminar. So it was an entire, weekend, 3-day thing. It was called the Landmark Forum. I don't know if you've heard of the Landmark Forum or people that have gone through that program. But so that was like a huge change for me, because what they go over in that process is basically just completely revamping what you believe is possible, which opened up this whole new future for me. But what I'm getting at here is that would have never happened had I not been pushed by somebody else. So I think that also ties into what I teach people as well with the whole networking thing. Is other humans and other individuals are so important for that reason. Like, not just who you can team up with and collaborate with and build a support system with or date or get married to, but the right people in your life can push you, right? And I think that's what people need, is people kind of, like, we can be our own catalyst, we can be our own self-starter, but I think a lot of the time, like for me personally, it was somebody else, like somebody that loves you, somebody that cares about you, stands for you, and really just like pushes you past what you would have just already probably done in the future, because we're all living lives that are just on this like trajectory, like this probable almost certain future. Like, if you think about who you are and what your habits are, you can almost like predict your life. Like, if you really think about, like, if I just keep doing the same thing in a year, 2 years, 3 years, like what your future looks like is almost is there's like a probable predictable path. And the only way to get around that is to like have the ambition. But for me, I think that wouldn't have ever occurred had there not been somebody else that was really like, hey, trust me and check this out. Trust me, look into this. Trust me, go down this path. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Yeah, I definitely agree with the different person now versus 5 years ago for sure. It makes me think about I completely agree, and I want to emphasize the magnitude of surrounding yourself with people that inspire you.
Yeah.
It's everything. I
Yeah.
mean, not only are you downloading subconscious cues from them about how to talk, how to move, how to interact, but every conversation you have with them, the more you're around them, the more you adopt their beliefs about the
Yeah.
world, about themselves, and inherently inspiring people are inspiring people because of how they view the world, how they view themselves, and like you're saying, the habits they have. And
Hmm.
so that's something I call it an energy audit. At least once a year, I write down at least 50 of the people that I interact with most, and I either draw an up arrow, a down arrow, or just a line. And it's my way of determining, okay, do I believe this person is a net benefit or like a net positive in my life? Do I feel like it's kind of stagnant, or do I feel like they're starting to pull me down or pull me away from who I want to be? And it's everyone has their own practice, but being aware of the people that you're around is it's just so important. So I love that you brought that up. But I think now is as good a time as any to jump back to what led you to coaching then, because it's obvious you saw the power in being willing and able to change these things for yourself.
Yeah.
What then brought you to the next step of, hey, maybe there's a few other people that might need this?
I feel like I've always wanted to be a coach. And when I was younger, I just had too much fear blocking me. I just never really felt that I was good enough or that I could start coaching. So, a little bit about my background: grew up in Fort Collins, went to Fort Collins High School. After that, kind of just tried to continue to follow the path that was the path most followed, which is like getting into college, going to the community college, and then going on the 4 year degree thing. I did one semester at the community college, and I mean, I did great in my classes. There was nothing wrong with it, but I was like walking around the campus, and I was like, man, I just cannot see myself sitting in this chair and doing this for another 4 years. Like, I chose to break out and get into fitness coaching. So I just wanted to start working and just it start making money. So I got a personal trainer certification. And so from there I started coaching people and training people, and I got a lot of fulfillment out of that. So I think I don't know what it is. I mean, for me, I've always wanted to be a coach because I think I wanted to, feel like I had some importance or some purpose and make some impact to some degree. Like, I didn't want to just work a job and just make really not have a direct impact on people. But what led me to get into the actual online coaching program that I do now, it took me till about 30 years old. So I think the way that I'll answer this question is it's not going to be like the actual like steps that I took to like become a coach. I think what really happened for me psychologically was I got to a place in my life where eventually I hit my 30th birthday, and I was like, man, all of this readiness that I'm waiting for, all of the confidence that I'm waiting for, like all of this like certainty around stepping into this role and being a coach and putting myself out there and holding this space for all these people and becoming this leader, it's never going to come. Like, at this point in my life, if I'm 30 years old and I'm not feeling ready, if I'm not feeling confident, it's never going to happen. So I need to take that first step, and I need to make myself slightly uncomfortable because the clock is ticking. Like, if not now, then when? And if not now, then never, right? So I think it was kind of almost like I just got to a point where I was like, man, I'm waiting for something that's never on its way. And I think a lot of people do the same, right? Like, they're waiting for that certainty. They're waiting for the negative emotions to dissipate and disappear. And maybe they're just working on themselves. But sometimes at the end of the day, you got to just call the shot and just be like, look, like, I'm however many years old. Like, like it's not like what you're waiting for isn't coming. And I realized that. So I dove into it and got it started. But we can dive into the more like specific stuff if you want to.
Yeah, well, I'm this is such a fascinating experience on my end because so I'm 27 right now, 28th birthday is coming up, and everything you just explained happened to you is this series of revelations that I'm going through in real time where I mean, I'm sitting in my studio, so I've got my own studio, I've got my business, and in training for this ultra marathon, I've just been having, I mean, I have a lot of time when I'm on a treadmill for 2 hours a day, but just this conversation within
Yeah.
myself of I've done some pretty great things that I'm proud of in terms of fitness, in terms of ultra endurance, adventure athletics. But then I was thinking to myself, why do I give myself permission to be great in that? But for some reason, I'm not giving
Mm.
myself permission to be great in business. And so the past
Yep.
couple months, I've really been putting myself under the microscope more with everything we're talking about of, like you said, just call the shot. I know where I want the business
You
to
have
go
to.
to. I know the impact I want to have. And like you were saying, that feeling of readiness, it's been there, but I haven't pushed the chips in yet. I've been holding on to them.
Yep.
And so the past couple months I've been pushing more and more chips in the middle. And it really is. It's this feeling of purpose is really the only way I can define it is as soon as I bought into the reality of, like you're saying, if the car is broken down on the side of the road, no one's just going to come over and push it for you. You got to get out and start pushing it. And as soon as you start pushing in
Yep.
your life, as soon as you start really not only calling the shot, but doing the work to make the shot happen, this undeniable energetic shift happens. And so I just wanted to take a few seconds and point that out because what you're saying you went through is the exact thing that I'm going through. And I'm sure a lot of other people are either going through it or they know that they need to start going through it and they haven't hit that, what I would call like the fuck it point yet, where it's like, let's just push the chips in and
Yep.
go for it. But yeah, I am a little
Mm-hmm.
curious. So you don't need to tell us, your daily journal for 4 years of how you got through it. But yeah, what are a few steps that you took from going from fitness coaching? I guess the first thing I'm curious about is what did you see in the world that led you towards the social coaching as opposed to fitness coaching?
Yeah. Well, so the fitness coaching thing came to an end a couple of years after I got started, just because I realized that as a fitness coach, like a personal trainer or a group fitness coach, for all my fitness coaches out there, you probably understand there's not a ton of money in it. So I started getting pushed more into the sales role. So I was selling gym memberships and selling packages. And that was face-to-face interaction, right? Like I could kind of help people and make a difference, but I could also make more money. So I was interested in that. And then I became a salesperson. And then I eventually wanted to take the next level up. And through a series of just random events, I started selling cars after that because I wanted to just continue to kind of parlay the sales skill where I could deal with people and help people and then increase my income. Car industry is really crazy. You can definitely like learn some cool skills, make money, and um I won't go too far into that. So I did that for a bit. And then after that, I got into software sales. So I was selling marketing software, which was even more money. And that was just strictly on the phone. So what I came to realize was like, okay, I can continue to kind of parlay this skill set, right? And we can get into money mastery and all these different things and how everything in life comes back to mastery. But wanted more. And so from the marketing sales, that's when I had the opportunity to get into the mortgages. So the mortgages was kind of like, the best kept secret in the sales world where I mean, you can make a lot of money in the mortgage industry. And that's what led me to packing up all my stuff, saying goodbye to all my friends and family, and moving out to North Carolina and starting a new journey and a new life with a new job. Now, that is what caused me to have my own problems and personal transformation socially and with my circle and with my networking and with my dating. But after, 2 3 years of being in the mortgage industry, like I realized like all I was doing was basically just like grinding my life away for the money, and I was putting all of this money away, and I was seeing the money stack up, but it didn't, like what the numbers meant more to me than the financial piece of it was, this is money, and every time I put something into my savings, I saw it as like, this is money that I can use one day to eventually do what I really want to do. You know what I'm saying? Like I just didn't want, like I didn't see myself in like my future as being in mortgages forever. I don't want like on I didn't want my tombstone to say, Brian the mortgage guy. And I didn't really know exactly like what I wanted to be or whatever. But I just knew like every time that I was saving, I was like, eventually this is going to be the money that I use to do what I really want to do one day, like to start a business or to start a brand or whatever. And fortunately, the mortgage market crashed and all of the companies shut down, which then forced me out of it and caused me to take 6 months off, where I was hanging out with my friends and traveling and experiencing things, but just spending time with myself too, and just thinking like, what do I want my future to be, and like what do I want it to look like, and just kind of like auditing all of my options. And then I was like, man, I've had this incredible uh, self-improvement journey with social skills, with dating, and with friends and social circle and stuff like that. And uh yeah, I mean, it just occurred to me that this is the opportunity, right? Like this is my time to get into coaching and like uh put what I had created for myself and what I've learned and what I was good at and my transformation, and just start putting it out there, and just see what happened. And so this response was really immediate because I had so many videos on my camera roll and all this different stuff that I could use for content and ads. And there's a lot of barriers I had to overcome to start like creating reels and start filming YouTube videos. And like even now, like when I'm hopping on group calls with my guys and I'm pushing them to self improve, I remind them that this whole thing is self improvement for me as well. Like for me to be able to hop on a group call with everybody and have a bunch of people up on Zoom, and I'm the point guard and we're running this call and we're doing this instruction and training, like I'm not necessarily comfortable doing this either, right? But this is me. You're seeing me in real time pushing past my limiting beliefs and fears and continuing to improve. So it's gone past just being, the social guy for myself. Now it's for me to like lead. And so now it's getting into the leadership stuff and the public speaking stuff and the podcast and stuff like that, right? So you know, getting into getting into coaching is simultaneously who I want to be, it's how I want to make my money, and then it's also my continuation of my own self-improvement.
I the reason I'm smiling so much when you say that is I've thought to myself for a while, if someone really wants to catalyze their growth in an area, try coaching it to other people
Yep.
because it forces you to be degrees above the people you're teaching, and it forces you to continue to level up at a rate greater than the people you're teaching so that they don't hit a point where they surpass you and then all of a sudden you have nothing that you
Right.
have to add value. So
Yep.
I completely agree with that. And I also I like I'm on par with what you said about fitness because I had the same exact entryway where went to school. After a year in school, it was like a fitness reference. It's like when the beta alanine kicks in and you just get like tingly all over. It was just that
Yeah.
physical sensation of this is not where I feel I should be right now. And so I went through like the king of remedial tasks of trying all these different jobs and landed on fitness. And it is very purposeful. It's good work. You help a lot of people. But to me, it got to the point where it really didn't challenge me at all. I had my fitness routine. I could show up hungover after a weekend of partying 10 minutes before a session and give them the best workout of their
Yep.
life. And I think that's a big piece of it too, is for me now doing what I do with Best Self, it forces me to grow in so many different verticals that if I'm not on my game, it's very obvious in terms of my social life, in terms of the business, in terms of my health. And I feel that you picked a really good opportunity for that as well, because what you coach people on is improving yourself, improving your circle of friends, improving your ability to partner with someone who is high quality and to live the life of your dreams. And so it
Mhm.
really puts you in a position of, all right, nut up or shut up. I got to make sure I'm doing this too. So I
Exactly.
really appreciate that. But what do you see as we talked about self development, but what do you see as the most important component of doing what you do? Is it that you saw other guys kind of out on the town awkwardly trying to socialize? Was it you had a bunch of friends that weren't really going out? What was the spark to you that was like, this is going to be really valuable for people because I see this in the world?
Yeah. Well, a concept that was taught to me and that I bring up a lot is the Socrates three keys. So I don't know if you've learned about the three keys that Socrates talks about. He talks about the three keys to the good life. So the three are wealth, health, and relationships. So, I mean, it's pretty undeniable that the relationship stuff is really crucial, right? I mean, whether that's your romantic relationships and the future of your dating and who you end up with and getting married to. I mean, man, like, Harvard University studies show that that's like the number one determining factor to lifelong happiness, like who you end up getting married to. So that piece is really important. I mean, so dating is a huge component to what my program is about. Um, because dating gets easier when you have a support system and you have friends and you have people that are like brothers to you and people that love you. Like that kind of goes back to our conversation about, who's going to push you, who's going to stand for you. You need people that like love you in your life, right? So start with your family and fix your relationships with your family. You can't choose who your family is, but you can choose how the relationship goes with them. And then from there it's like guy friends. I mean, before you get married and before you decide who you're going to partner up with forever, have a foundation of guys that you could just like go to the gym with and or travel with or and like win together. So um I mean, I just for me, man, I knew I did I don't everybody kind of lives in their own world, and my clients just come from a variety of backgrounds. So I can't say that like I saw the problem for other people and was like, "Oh, I can solve that." I just knew that I had the problem at one point. Like for me, if I wanted to have better friends and be a little bit be a little bit more skilled socially and a little bit more welcomed into uh better opportunities and environments, like other people probably want to as well, right? Like why would it be just me? So yeah, but at its very core and at the foundation, like sure, I can help you with your fitness and your fashion and your Instagram, and I can help you to host a party that's going to allow you to meet a bunch of new people and really awesome guys and really great girls and build out your social circle. But I think at the end of the day, like all that any of this is really about is just becoming a better man. Like I hope that what I train you on and what I coach you on and what it does for you at the end of the day, I hope it just makes you become a better person, just a better man in general, because that's what life is all about, right? Like you can have plenty of vehicles to accomplish that, whether it's, fitness or religion or whatever. But as long as I'm helping people just become a better man, like an improved version of themselves, somehow, some way, that's what I'm trying to do, in my life. So, uh, yeah, man. I mean, that's what it is for me, is just becoming a more actualized human being, and really like using the vehicle of relationships in the three keys to get there.
That's amazing. I mean, I I'm always inspired when I meet someone who cares as much about how they make their money as how much money they make. And to see someone like you who's ambitious in both regards, where you don't shy away from, look, I want to make a lot of money. I know what it can do for
Yeah.
me, for my life, for my like security, for all of it. But also, you don't shy away from having your cake and eating it too, where you're like, I don't only want to make a lot of money, I want to do it by helping other people, by living my dream life. And that's something I hope to instill in other people through this conversation is, I mean, you can see your mentality. You practice what you preach. This sentiment of, look, you can have what you want, but you have to believe it's possible. You have to get yourself to a point where you can even call the shot. You have to know what it takes to
Mm.
land the shot, and then you have to go land the shot, rinse
Yeah.
and repeat. And so I really hope people see how important this is and see the confidence in which you speak on these things because you've experienced it. Now, getting into the rest of the social lifestyle blueprint. So we talked about layer one, the foundation is self discipline.
Yeah.
Layer two, on top of that, is I love the word you picked, the vibe. So
Yeah.
talk to me about once they've built that foundation, how do you create a vibe?
Yeah. Well, so I mean, it starts with self-discipline because I mean, think of it like if you're going to improve your vibe, which is just like your personality, it's your social skills, it's the way that you communicate and the way that you make other people feel. It's the same thing as like building a really incredible physique in the gym. There's steps that you take, there's habits that you build, there's things that you do. Now, none of that's going to happen if it's not built on a foundation of self-discipline. If you don't have self-discipline, you're not going to consistently show up to the gym, you're not going to consistently hit your macros, you're not going to consistently do the right things that lead to the result. So we've got to get the habits in place. I mean, you've got to get the self-discipline in place, you've got to get your integrity and your word in check. So nothing can function without integrity. And so integrity is a matter of your word, and then your word is what leads to your commitments, and then your commitments is basically, how you're disciplining yourself. On top of that, now we can get into developing skill sets. So the vibe is just all about understanding human psychology. It's all about understanding things from a just fundamental level, and uh, going in and practicing. So, like starting conversations, understanding how to maintain eye contact, speaking through a smile, vocal tonality, vocal pacing, physical touch, and conversational structures, like how to, form commonalities with people, how to, tease people, flirt, maybe break rapport and be use humor, and build it back up with genuine, authentic self-disclosure. Like these are all skill sets, these are all things that you can learn the same way somebody can teach you the proper form for a bicep curl.
Yeah, I find it, and I agree. I think, and I also, as we go through the pyramid here, I like the way you stacked it because it's simple logic, but also it is important that the layer beneath it sets before you go into that next layer.
Yeah.
And the idea of self-discipline being the foundation, you have to just have the skill of holding yourself accountable, doing the right things, and then from there the vibe. I completely agree. I mean, the vibe aspect of it is it almost feels like that tip of the iceberg motivational quote where people see the result, but they don't see the understanding of psychology, sociology, tonality, all of those things,
Yeah.
nonverbal cues. And so I like that I'm a big believer in inside out. So start with what you can control the most, which is your self discipline, which is building your skill sets. And then
Mm.
moving from there, I can't help but notice it's almost like a lead funnel. And I love the way you set this up. So from layer essentially 3 to 6, you talk about starting with high volume social interaction from like hosting parties, come one,
Yeah.
come all, and then you kind of
Yeah.
filter it down of through the mass introductions from the social events, you start to pick the cream of the crop out and you start to build connections with those inspiring people. So lead us through kind of those next few layers of why you do start with, hey, come one, come all. I'm hosting this event. Bring your friends. Let's all hang out, and then kind of sifting through until you find the that core group.
Yeah, yeah. So, I had to kind of reverse engineer and design a way for me to make a replicable process for somebody else. And, what took me years and years and years to figure out, over just repetition and time, could be almost boiled down to and distilled certain actions that, if optimized, could get somebody a similar result literally in a couple of weeks, like for what took me years. So I was like, okay, what is that? Right? Like, what is that thing? And like, what are the core tenets to what I did and how it worked? So the next layer above developing your confidence, your vibe, your social skills is this what I call the high volume front end offer. So what this is basically it's a mechanism that allows us to solve a couple of problems. The first problem is meeting new people. So that's a big thing. For guys that don't have friends, they don't, have an active social life or an active dating life. They're just not getting into enough interactions and meeting enough people. So there's all kinds of stuff that's out there right now that's like helping people to accomplish this. You've got these just random meetup events, you've got run clubs, right? The rise of these curated environments where you can kind of go and meet people, and speed dating events or whatever, dating apps, like there's all this different stuff. But what it needs to be coupled with, for maximum efficacy, right? Like you need to be able to meet people, but how is there a way for us to, instead of like, individually spend a bunch of time after years and years of like going and just meeting people organically at the run club, like how can we accelerate this? Like how can we create like a scalable system where it's like we can meet a bunch of people all at one time and then solve the second problem. And the second problem is situational status. So everybody's heard that first impressions are important and all of this different stuff, right? Like you can go to the run club and you can just start introducing yourself to people, and that's going to have a certain level of efficacy. But human beings are hierarchical creatures, right? Like we're wired for recognizing hierarchies and status. Like that's just the way it is, right? Like this is just simply the laws of human nature. If you don't believe me, just like read books on this stuff, right? So like how do we meet people at scale and then also create some situational status? So the way to do that is to create a lead magnet or like an offer, which in other words is a social event or a social party, a social opportunity, for other people, right? Because it does give them value. This isn't just about us. Like this is about giving value to others. Because if you graciously give, and you'll be able to effortlessly receive. So yeah, the party method, and there's a lot of details behind how to throw the perfect party. But you can do it for free. You can do it very easily. There's no setup, there's no cleanup, there's no money spent. but you can get a bunch of people. So you can meet a bunch of people all at one time, which solves that problem. And then simultaneously give yourself a little bit of situational status so that you're really breaking through the, croc brain to the midbrain and really getting into the like actual like neocortex where people are interested in you and people are actually like attracted to you, right? Because what's worse than having no friends and trying to make friends and just failing and getting shut down and feeling invisible? Like I know what that feels like, where it's you go to a bar, there's a million people in this bar, but I'm still alone, right? Because nobody here cares about me. So that's the two problems that it solves on the high volume thing, which is like meet a bunch of people and then create a little bit of situational status so they actually care about who I am.
Yeah, and then from there you go into creating your core circle, which because we're getting up there on time, I'll have you just real quick. What are when you're looking for your core circle, correct me if I'm wrong, you're essentially looking for, like we've talked about, people that inspire you. So
Yeah.
the people that have, they have the buy-in for the fitness, they have the buy-in for the ambition in career or business, they have the buy-in for also wanting to cultivate deep quality relationships.
Mm-hmm.
What, when you're looking for the core circle, or at this point you probably have your core circle, so when you're coaching other people on who to identify for it, what are two or three of the most important traits you say this is what you look for?
Yeah. So what you're looking for is yourself, right? And so you're looking for other people that are, when it comes to guys, right? Like you're looking for other yous out there. So if I look at my best friend circle, we're pretty much the same height, we're the same build, we have the same interests, we have this, similar personality traits and characteristics. So, your best friends and your future wife one day, like these people aren't just on every street corner. Like it's not like there's actually, I mean, there is obviously abundance, but I mean, not everybody's going to be your best friend, right? So, like, these special people are to a certain degree a little bit of a needle in the haystack. So, you kind of have to meet a lot of people and then you have to be intentional about this. But what you're looking for is other yous, if that makes sense.
It does. Yeah, that's a trap I've fallen into several times. Is I'm very much an obsessive person. So a project that I take on, like this run, for example, I become all consumed by the projects I work on. I become all consumed by the relationships I have. I'm very much an all in kind of personality type. And it did feel very ostracizing once I started shedding the old skin
Mm,
of Trevor of past and trying to
mm,
cement the new version, new lifestyle, because I would find people that had the same interests, but not the same level of passion or ambition. And so I kept going into relationships with people who, kind of what you're talking about, there was enough, but it wasn't a needle in the haystack. It was some of the hay that maybe had
yep.
like a silver tint to it. And that's
Yeah.
not to discredit anyone else. That's just to say it is as difficult as you say to find the use.
Yeah.
Now, moving into layer five, because this one stood out to me in the sense that I wasn't expecting it. A lot of these other ones, when it came to a social blueprint, I read it and I'm like, as soon as I saw the title, I get it, that makes sense. But content, I'm I get why you said it and it makes a lot of sense. But why is content an important layer to the pyramid for your social blueprint?
It's just the world that we live in now. I mean, it's 2025. And if you were to take everybody's phone and pull out their most recently used and frequently screen timed applications, it's going to be Instagram. So you want to be strategic, then go where people are. And, this is the same in business too. Um, Everybody's on IG. So this is a huge opportunity. I mean, it's a huge leverage piece, right? And really trying to help guys take quantum leaps. To take quantum leaps, we got to use some leverage here. So the big opportunity in 2025 is content, and whether that's for a business or your personal brand, your dating life or your friendships. Like all it is just attention and eyeballs, and that leads to authority. It leads to reputation. It leads to credibility. So if you're, making friends and you guys are teaming up and you guys are doing cool stuff, and then you can get really strategic and start, working with local businesses and venues and throwing parties where it's sponsored, all kinds of stuff, right? Um, there's just an undeniable truth behind the fact that when people are collaborating and creating content and it gets attention, that is going to have massive benefits for your social status, for your just social exposure, for your reputation. So because you can create content and everybody can collaborate on it. So like, gives you and your friend group and the people in your life, like I mean, I see this whole thing as a hobby, right? Like it's kind of like a mission where, we're building here and we're benefiting people and the community and all this different stuff. But yeah, I mean, content is just, I mean, it's big, man, because you can create an Instagram reel that gets seen by thousands of eyeballs and could potentially go viral. I mean, you could create the right piece of content and potentially get famous.
Yeah. One, there are a few reasons I really like this. And it's funny that this was on here because I have a friend who she is a fitness influencer for sure. 40, 50,000 followers just on her fitness YouTube and does a lot of great things, but she kept talking to me about, these big grandiose projects I do and the coaching that I do, and she just kept pushing me like you got to start making content, you got to be consistent with it. And so before even diving into the research on you and this blueprint, that was one of my 2025 commitments to myself was on my business account and on my personal account, consistent posting. And I think there are a few reasons for that. One, accountability, accountability to self. So not only can I stay consistent with the posting, but am I actually doing enough cool stuff to be able to be consistent with the posting? Because I don't want
Right.
to post a video of me laying in bed watching Netflix for 3 hours and then, going through the drive through at McDonald's and then sitting at a desk for 8 hours. I want to actually be living a filled life with adventure and connection and all of these things that would make each post worth it. So I found that interesting for a few layers of it gives you the chance to be recognized. It holds you accountable to the consistency of habit in general,
Hmm.
and it pushes you to make sure that your content is actually valuable.
Yeah.
So I really like that. And then as we kind of move through, I think layers 6, 7, and 8 really all they I feel like at this point, if you've hit layer 6 with surrounding yourself with elite men, which is it sounds like just kind of that one tier up from your core circle, you really get around the people who are known by other people as inspiring, admirable, successful, all of those things.
Hmm.
I think once you get to that point, it's a bit of a runaway train, probably, where you get around those type of people. Layer 7, you get that exclusive invite to, the parties where simply being at the party inherently holds a level of value. You don't
Yeah.
have to try to project your accomplishments or overvalue stuff. You're in a room of people who are there because of those things. And
Yeah.
so you get to let your guard down and do a little more of just the getting to know the person behind the accomplishments in those environments and talk
Yeah.
shop and do all the more fun, authentic stuff.
Sure. Yep.
But then it ends with layer 8, tens and money. I just like I thought that was hilarious, the title of that, but that is the goal. And maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like tens isn't just like a 10 in terms of like the looks of the person you're trying to get with. It's the quality of partner you have, the
Yeah.
quality of brotherhood you have, the quality of lifestyle you have. And when you have that, inherently all of the layers stacked below this lead to you cultivating the skills to create the income.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And it's just, yeah, I mean, tens is just whatever a 10 is for you, right? I mean, that's all very subjective. Um, yeah, I mean, that's at the very top, that's the goal to just be living that 10 out of 10 life where it's like you're 10 out of 10 with your family, 10 out of 10 with your girl, 10 out of 10 with your friends, 10 out of 10 with your money. I mean, that's that's what the program is all about.
That's
Get into
amazing.
that,
And
yeah,
it
goal.
is set up in a really effective way because like you said, it's as a coach scalable. Everyone I know could do this and create what it's supposed to create. But
Right,
on top of that, I'm sure as with everything else, there's a lot of nuance, but the pyramid itself is simple. You have the blueprint, go execute. And it seems like that's almost right in par with you as a person, where I could be wrong, but my read on you is you're able to find the simplest common denominator or like the overarching truth of a thing and make it so simple that, in the wise words of Alex Hormozy, it's unreasonable not to do it. I
right.
mean, this list it's so simple, it's unreasonable not to follow through on a lot of these things. But to your point, and to bring it full circle, that's where a coach comes in. It's not necessarily the complexities of doing all this, which I'm sure you have a great background in and can help people with, but it's the reminding them of who they are, reminding them of their belief, reminding them of just staying accountable to the version of themselves that they can keep inching closer to, as opposed to the anxiety tax that keeps stacking from shying away from that.
Absolutely, man. That was really well put. I completely agree.
I've had my practice talking about stuff like this, but
That was good. Yeah, that was good.
cool. So, I mean, if people haven't gotten value at this point, I don't know what to do, but I'm a big quotes guy. So, anytime I do my research on people, I like to find the bumper sticker, one liner quotes that they post or share that I resonate with.
Hmm.
So, I have three for you that I want to just roll through real quick. The first one: everyone gets jealous, the smart ones get inspired.
Yep.
Tell me about that one.
Yeah, I mean, I've dealt with my fair share of jealousy, especially socially, I mean, you see other people that are doing things that are fun and it's not even just like flashy, but like, damn, these people really are friends. Like this really is like a friend circle. And you can become a hater and you can get jealous or you can get inspired and you can create it for yourself. It's a choice.
Yeah. Yeah, the word perspective holds a lot of weight for me, and I that one to me just shows the power of perspective. You can choose to put the lens on it of lack and judgment, or you can put the lens on it of this is just simply a blueprint. They have what I want. They got it somehow. Let's go do it.
Yeah.
The next one I have is your true work in life is to keep lifting your frequency because everything in your life comes as a result of your frequency.
Sure. Yep. It's right.
So, what led you to that realization?
I mean, yeah, I just realized that it's all a reflection of your identity. I mean, your results in life are a reflection of who you are on the inside. Your inner world reflects your outer world. So it's all an identity level game.
Absolutely. And then the last one, this is something I wrote down because I just talked with someone about this 2 days ago. You have the quote, I may not achieve all my goals, but I'm defined by my pursuit of them.
That's a good one, man. That's a
That
good one.
was that one hit home for me. Now, when you think about that, what do you think about? What about the pursuit is what defines you?
Yeah, I mean, man, like I still every day because I'm a human, I have doubts and still have thoughts of fear and insecurity and all of that stuff. And sometimes I wonder if I will ever hit all of my goals, and if it's all, if it all really is possible. Um, but at the end of the day, like, I think where I can always default back to is like, at least I'm waking up and I'm doing my best and I'm trying. Like, I can at least be defined by the fact that I'm willing to swing the bat, so that when I'm looking back on my life on my final days, I can say, damn, like, what else was there to do other than what I did? And there's a sense of pride, and there's a sense of comfort in knowing that whatever happens, wherever all of this ends up going, if I'm true to myself, and if I have a good heart, and I stick to the path of leaving the world better than I found it, then what else really matters?
100% agree. And it's funny. So sometimes I have guests on here, sometimes I do solo episodes. The next solo episode I plan on releasing is the title Being versus Becoming.
Mm,
And you summed it up with this one sentence. I could just hop on, say this, and be done.
yeah.
I think far too many people fall in the trap of saying, I want to be at the point of accomplishing that goal or being that version of myself, not understanding that the power comes in the steps leading up to it and that pursuit, what you're talking about. So everything from generating the belief to even start thinking about calling the shot, starting to plan of what it actually will look like, living the process of going through the trials and tribulations, developing your sense of self through the whole journey. That's where the real nuggets are. That's where the real power comes in. And hopefully people start to wake up to that and stop looking for just the easy way to the next step,
Yeah.
and instead focus on truly becoming and focusing on the pursuit and what that will give you. So I think that's probably a good place to end this. Brian, I
Yeah.
appreciate you coming on. Where can people, whether it's someone who just wants to start following you on social, maybe there's someone here who they're like, dude, your coaching is exactly what I need. Where are some places people can find you, connect with you, watch your
Yeah.
journey?
Yeah, so my YouTube channel is a good place to start off, New City Mastery. So you can just type in New City Mastery on YouTube and find me there. Go through my videos, check out some of my content, subscribe to the channel if you're wanting to stay in the know with social skills and social life blueprint, all these different elements. And then on Instagram as well, New City Mastery on Instagram, where I post the, more like highlight clips and lifestyle stuff, short form stuff. And yeah, I mean, if you send me a DM on Instagram, happy to chat with you. You can also, in the link of the description on my YouTube videos, join my free school community and go through a free course and enjoy a free community of people there as well.
Heck yeah, get on it, everybody. Well, Brian, I appreciate you taking the time. This was not just good for the listeners, this was a good chat for me too. There was a lot of good insight. I think the path that you've taken, it aligns pretty well with the path that I'm on. So it was just fun to be able to get to riff with you, ask questions. But yeah, I appreciate you taking the time. I appreciate you doing what you do for your community, for the people who follow you. Keep doing what you're doing. It's obviously working.
I appreciate you having me on, man. We'll have to do it again sometime.
I'm down. And everyone who's listening, thank you. If you've especially gotten to this point, I commend you for taking time to not just binge useless entertainment, but
Mm,
really take the time to develop yourself, listen to people with the experiences, and just grow. Become that best version of who you can be, regardless of what that means to you. So, thank you for tuning in, and we will catch you in the next one. Peace.